I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer for giving us the opportunity to present our work. I am Sutanu Bhattacharya, a PhD candidate at Auburn University. Today, I'm going to present our new distance and orientation-based threading work, DisCovER. As we know, protein threading is a template-based protein structure prediction problem where the prediction is made by threading or aligning each amino acid in the query sequence to a position in the template structure and identify the best fit template. Protein threading is the most widely used remote or distant homology modeling technique, particularly when the direct evolutionary relationship between the target and templates become very low, typically when the sequence similarity falls below 30%. Existing threading approaches employ a scoring function based on sequential features, whereas others make use of sequential and structural features for calculating the scoring function. However, despite steady progress in threading over the past decade, there is still room for improvement, particularly with the rapid growth in both sequence and structured databases. In this regard, can we use additional information into threading to boost threading performance? Here comes inter-residue contact or distance maps. Inter-residue contact or distance map is a two-dimensional symmetric matrix where each cell defines the proximity of a pair of residue. The left figure is a protein three-dimensional representation where contacting residue pairs are shown to be connected by a line. And the right figure is corresponding two-dimensional representation. Black dot represents contacting pairs. A few recent methods use contact and distance in threading successfully. For instance, state-of-the-art contact-assisted threading method includes map-aligned C-threader. Deep threader goes one step further to incorporate distant information into threading and shows very promising results. The main contribution of our work is to incorporate inter-residue orientation information along with distant information to improve threading performance. We note, while existing threading methods use contact or distant information, but none of the threading methods incorporate orientation information so far. Here, the figure illustrates distance and orientation angles. In particular, D represents distance and omega, theta, and phi are orientation angles. Here, omega is a symmetric dihedral angle. On the other hand, theta is an asymmetric dihedral angle and phi is an asymmetric planar angle. The next contribution of our work is to consider the effect of the residue pairs in the neighborhood of an aligned query template residue pair, which is still ignored by existing threading methods. It is based on the principle that one query template residue pair I and J is likely to be aligned if their neighboring residues, that is I-1 and J-1, as well as I+1 and J+1 are also aligned. Let's discuss briefly about our DisCovER methodology. First, we use standard profile-based scoring function to score ith residue of the query and the jth residue of the template, considering sequential and structural features. Next, to further improve the sensitivity of profile-based alignment, we account for network neighborhood and then use Needleman-Winch dynamic programming to score every query template alignment. To select the top 15 templates, we normalize the raw alignment score to make it length independent. A subset of 50 top scoring templates is selected using the normalized profile-based alignment score. Now we score distance and orientation-based alignment. In particular, we predict inter-residue distance and orientation from the query sequence and extract the native distance and orientation from templates. The predicted distance map is then binned into 9 segments at 1 angstrom interval, starting from 6 angstrom to 14 angstrom. On the other hand, the two dihedral angles and the planar angle are binned with a bin width of 15 degrees respectively. Here, all distance and orientation bins have associated likelihood values for the query protein predicted by TR Rosetta. Next, a similarity score is calculated for each row of query and template distance map by aligning predicted and true inter-residue interaction maps using a double dynamic programming framework and compute the optimal alignment. After obtaining the optimal alignment, the raw similarity score is normalized. The final query template alignment score, or Z-final, which is a combination of normalized geometry-based alignment score and normalized profile-based alignment score. Z-final is used to find the top fit template from the library of templates. First, here we benchmark our new method DisCovER using targets from the continuous automated model evaluation, or CAMEO experiments, consisting of 117 protein officially classified as hard. Here we make a fair experimental setup as follows. First, DisCovER utilizes distance and orientation predicted from TR Rosetta, which uses a training set older than the CAMEO test set used here. Moreover, DisCovER also relies on secondary structure predictor Spider3, which also uses a much older training dataset and thus independent of the CAMEO test set. Moreover, we collect publicly available multiple sequence alignments independently generated using non-overlapping protein sequence databases to feed into TR Rosetta and Spider3. Furthermore, the template library used in DisCovER excludes any templates released after starting of CAMEO experiments. Moreover, we run all competing methods by their default mode and using the same or comparable template library. And we also use identical modeling strategy using standard automodel class of modeler to build 3D model for all methods. Finally, TM score is used to evaluate the performance, which score between 0 to 1, higher score is better. As shown in the table, DisCovER is compared against profile-based threading methods such as Pigeon Threader, PPS, Muster, SparkX, CNF-RED, as well as state-of-the-art contact-assisted threading method, including C-Threader utilizing ResPre predicted contact maps and EigenThreader utilizing DMP fold predicted contact maps. As shown in the table, DisCovER outperforms all competing methods in terms of average TM score, as well as in the number of correct fold with TM score more than 0.5. In particular, DisCovER attains a mean TM score of 0.505, whereas the best contact-assisted threading method C-Threader and next best profile-based method CNF-RED falls short of achieving a mean TM score of 0.5. In the right scatter plot, further shows head-to-head comparison between DisCovER and the next best methods, where most of the points are below diagonal, illustrating the superior performance of DisCovER in threading remote homology proteins. But where does this improvement come from? To investigate the contribution of each component of DisCovER, we further perform ablation study by gradually removing each component from the full-fledged DisCovER method one at a time. It is worth mentioning all variants of DisCovER use same profile-based features as well as the identical 3D modeling strategy to make a fair comparison. The first dataset, CAMEO, contains 117 hard targets and 60 very hard targets. Our second dataset is Muster, which contains a mix of easy and hard targets. Here we exclude templates with sequence identity cutoff of 20% and blast p-value cutoff of 0.05 as homology cutoff. As shown in the table, network neighborhood helps to improve the average TM score, particularly for very hard targets. Incorporating orientation further improves the performance of DisCovER, particularly for a mix of easy and hard target set. In addition to orientation, distance information also plays a significant role in the success of DisCovER. The full-fledged DisCovER attains the best performance, illustrating the complementary role of orientation and distance information, particularly for mix of easy and hard target set. Finally, TM-aligned performance is reported as a reference oracle method, and not surprisingly, the TM-aligned based oracle achieves much better performance, indicating that there is still large room for improvement. To further examine whether the additional information such as distance and orientation used in DisCovER can further improve the 3D modeling, we compare the standard automodel class of modeler with respect to modeler that integrates additional restraints from predicted distances, orientations, and secondary structures. Here, modeler with additional restraints shifts the TM score distribution towards higher accuracy, demonstrating 3D model building using modeler with additional restraints can be an effective use of additional information of DisCovER. Therefore, we follow this model building approach henceforth. Since distance-based threading method deep threader is not publicly available to run, we compared the performance of DisCovER to that of Cameo server RaptorX, which according to the Cameo assessment paper employs the distance-based threading method deep threader. Here we use 60 very hard Cameo target set as a benchmarking dataset. As shown in the figure, DisCovER achieves higher TM score, mean TM score than RaptorX, while skewing the overall TM score distribution towards higher accuracy. That is, DisCovER outperforms deep threader at one of the most challenging threading situations. With this, I'd like to conclude this talk with some observations. DisCovER is a new protein threading method that effectively integrates the covariational signal encoded in inter-residue distance and orientation along with network neighborhood, where our novel contributions are incorporating orientation information and considering network neighborhood. Control ablation study reveals that distance and orientation information contribute significantly to the superior performance of DisCovER, which is complemented by the neighborhood effect, particularly for weakly homologous proteins. And with the recent development of deep learning technologies, we know development of deep learning based threading methods such as ND-Threader, ProAlign for improved threading performance. Therefore, our future work can be extended by making use of deep learning in improving threading performance. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge my PI, Dr. Bhattacharya, and my co-author, Rochi, and the funding and resource agencies for their kind support. Our method DisCovER is also freely available in GitHub with the source code. Please check it out. Please also visit our poster session, and thank you very much for your attention.